Hello, good day. Welcome back to another math video. Today, pag-uusapan natin about complex numbers. So before we start, let us try to go back first to the concept of the discriminant of the quadratic equation. So we know that if the discriminant is equal to 0, the roots of our quadratic equation are real and equal. If above 0 or greater than 0, the roots will be real and unequal. If less than 0, the roots will be imaginary and unequal. For example, we have the equation 9x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. So, to make use of the discriminant, we need to identify first our a, b, and c. So, in this quadratic equation, our a is 9, our b is negative 3, and our c is a positive 2. So, let's try to plug these values to our discriminant. So, we have again d, or the discriminant, is equal to b squared, or negative 3 squared, minus 4. Our a is 9, our c is 2. So, and then we will have, this is 9, negative 3 squared is 9, negative 4 times 9, 36 times 2 will become negative 72. And then 9 minus 72 will give us a negative 63. Now, based from this discriminant, negative 63 is actually less than 0. So we are to expect that the roots of our quadratic equation will be imaginary and unequal. So we are to expect again that the roots will be imaginary and unequal. So from this alone, what are imaginary numbers? But before that, let's try to um, solve this quadratic equation first for us to see whether the roots are really imaginary and unequal. So to do that, let's try to make use of our quadratic formula. So we have x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, and then again we're going to plug or substitute our values to our formula. We will have the negative of the negative 3 plus minus the square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times 9 times 2 all over 2 times 9, and this will give us 3 plus minus 9 minus the square root of 9 minus 72 over 18, or 3 plus minus the square root of negative 63 over 18. Now, if you notice here, we actually have here negative square root. Right? So again, we have here a negative square root. So again, if we are going to use our calculator, if we are going to find the value of the square root of negative 63, it will give us an error. So again, this is an example of imaginary numbers. So from this, what are imaginary numbers? So the imaginary number, denoted by our friend I here, has the following property. Number 1, I is equal to the square root of negative 1. So therefore, if we are going to get the square root of negative 1, that is just equal to I. Right? So again, this is the first one. And if we're going to do the reverse, so we have I squared, it will give us negative 1. This is the second one. So again, take note, the square root of the negative 1 is I, represented or denoted by I. That means imaginary. And then I squared is equal to negative 1. And then, for any positive real number n, the square root of the negative n is equal to I times the square root of n. So later, we will have an example for us to better understand this concept. Exercise 1. So for example, we have here the square root of negative 6. So again, we all know that negative 6 is a factor of negative 1 times 6. And then earlier, we know that the square root again of negative 1 is actually I. So therefore, we can actually separate these two. We will have negative 1, the square root of negative 1, times the square root of negative 6. And again, we know that the square root of negative 1 is I. And then 6 is not a perfect square, so we'll leave it as is. So our answer will be plus minus I times the square root of 6, or since this is multiplication, we can do this one. So we have plus minus I times the square root of 6. Or you can also write it this way, plus minus square root of 6I. Alright? But then again, both are actually correct. Just a matter of preference in writing. Next example, we have the square root of negative 20. So again, negative 20 can be rewritten as negative 1 times 20. And then, what we will do is separate the two. We have the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 20. And then, we all know again that the square root of the negative 1 is just I. So we have plus minus I, and 20 is not a perfect square. So we leave it as is. So our answer will be plus minus I times the square root of 20, or plus minus square root of 20I. So again, both answers are correct. It's just a matter of preference in writing. More examples. So we have the square root of negative 5. So this is equal to negative 1 times 5, and then negative 1, the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 5, and that will give us plus minus I times the square root of 5. This will be our answer. Alright, last example. So we have here the square root of negative 25. So negative 25 can be rewritten as negative 1 times 25. And then we will write the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 25. And again, the square root of negative 1 is I. And then 25 actually is a perfect square, so we have plus minus 5. So in this example, we will have plus minus 5I. So again, this will be our final answer. So that is how we simplify numbers in terms of I.